All right, guys, it is time for part 2 of our book club discussion where we will be covering Willie the Weirdo. Robert, go ahead and kick us off with what this one's about.
Well, right off the jump, I don't think Willie had a chance with the name Willie. But Willie, by most accounts, is a weirdo. He likes dead birds, dead bugs. He stares into space for hours daydreaming, like just nothing going on up there. But luckily for old Willie, there's another weirdo in the house, his grandpa.
This one is tagged, I would say, probably horror. There's some suspense. It is very odd. It's very odd. You know, one thing that he did that I was like, okay, this one I was like, that I don't know what's going on here, was when he was watching the mole float down the drain, hoping that it would go into the sewer thing or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right, bro. Right. And then the firefly thing. They put fireflies in a jar, give them no oxygen, and then watch as their lights go out. I'm like, okay, yeah.
What was Willie, 10? I think Willie's 10 years old. So you have a 10-year-old kid who's doing like some, you know, if I'm a parent and my kid's like, hey, Dad, look at this Mountain Dew bottle full of dead lightning bugs, we call him the therapist. Like off top, it's therapy time. And then my son's getting bullied. And as he's getting bullied, he's just watching a mole float down the sewer grate just because he wanted to see what happens when the dead body hits the sewer drain. It's like, hold on, bro. Is it just Stephen King putting a kid in here in these situations to creep me out? Because I was creeped out.
Mm-hmm. Just kind of goes in, again, to show the mind of how Stephen King operates in a different playing field than the rest of us. Yeah. The way that he could just think up these kind of things, the way that he could tell stories and develop characters, even in these short stories, such a quick time. Like by the time you get to the end of this one was what, 20 pages, 25 pages, something like that.
Dude, I think it was actually 16, 17 pages.
Well, there you go. 16, 17 pages. By the time you get to the end of it, like I was like, man, like I don't know. I started kind of feeling for Willie a little bit. I was like, this kid, dude, like just, he needs, like, I'm glad, like, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, his grandpa's about to die. Like, he's going to have nobody in his corner. You know, all these things. Started really feeling for Willie. Started feeling bad for that guy.
You got human eyes for Willie.
Yeah, dude. That's right.
It's okay. But you know what? As creepy as Willie was, his grandpa kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for here, dude? Enabled his creepiness a little bit. His grandpa's like, yeah, Willie, put the lightning bug, get another one in there. Watch the light go out. Let me tell you about these stories about when I was in the war and a 12-year-old boy got shot in the throat. It's like, what?
Well, it was weird because he's talking about past stuff. Like, what was it? The Gettysburg battle. And, you know, he was talking about like, and Willie's like, tell me about the fat one, Grandpa. Tell me about the fat one, you know. He's like, with all the blood, you know. You're like, what?
And he talked about like the blood squirting through the teeth and the gleam on the ground. And Willie's like, you mean like rubies in the sun? And I'm like, dude, Willie's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
But where it like took a little jump where the suspense and the mystery came in for me, because Grandpa talked about the war and there was no clear like timeline unless they mentioned COVID. He's mentioned COVID in like every one of these stories. I'm sure he mentioned it in this one, but I can't remember a timeline. But so his grandpa is like, hey, I was alive for this. And Willie's like, are you lying? He's like, no, I really was there. Well, then later he's like, tell me the story about Cleopatra. I'm like, hold on, bro. His grandpa went alive for Cleopatra. Is he a time traveler? Because, dude, I love that stuff. You give me time travel, I'm like, okay, I'm here. So I thought Grandpa was a time traveler.
He did mention COVID in this one. His specific one in this, if I remember, was when Willie's asking his grandpa about, like, will there be a plague, Grandpa? That takes over the whole world or whatever. And then he's like, well, we didn't have quite that the plague that took out all of mankind, but we had COVID, and Willie thought that was pretty good. You know, like, it was one of those, like, you're like, whoa, like, what? Yep. This one starts dark and ends dark. Like, there is no
disturbing and ends disturbing.
Exactly. So it's a little different.
I felt disturbed, man. I'll use it for the third time. That's just how I felt reading this book the whole time. Like,
yeah.
I wish Grandpa just would have been a time traveler. Stephen King, why? Just let me have the time travel. But no, you had to go further. Like, over the course of the book, Grandpa like decays, and you're kind of like getting description of what it's like living with someone who's kind of going through the end.
Mm-hmm.
And what's creepier than already creepy old Willie is he like becomes more and more enraptured with death the longer the story goes. And one scene, he's like, I like the stench of my dying grandpa's room, and describes the smell. And I'm like, all right, Willie, bro.
It's like urine and feces and stuff. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, Willie, you need to go outside and touch grass. Man. But this one, like, what was that first? Dude, how did I already forget the book we talked about? The fifth step. It had a twist ending to it.
It did. And I still think it's a thing with the twist ending where, and I know we have a question about that here in a little bit that we'll kind of go over, but it leaves things up for debate, I think, in your mind a little bit, because, as you were kind of discussing, Willie's obsessed with his dying grandpa, and he's like, hey, I like the smell, I like being around. And he goes up to his grandpa. He goes, hey, grandpa, when it's happening, can I watch? Basically, can I watch you die? And his grandpa's like, I mean, if you're here, if you're here, you can watch me die, kind of thing. And so Willie's in the room, and his grandpa goes, it's Willie. And Willie's like, what's up? He goes, it's happening, like I'm about to go. And Willie goes, okay. And Willie puts his face right in front of his grandpa's face and goes, I want to be the last thing you see before you go. And his grandpa grabs him by the throat and says, you're obsessed. Basically, you're obsessed with death. I'm going to be the last thing you see before you go.
Yeah.
And then who walks out of the room? It's Willie, but is it Willie?
Yeah, dude. His grandpa had like a tell. Anytime you ask him a question, he kind of like
rubbed his mustache.
And Willie's mom at the end of the story asks him a question, and Willie kind of answers it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen King did it, another solid, spooky campfire story.
Yeah.
That he told in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Creeped me out.
And so just kind of leaves some things up for debate. So this one was good. I thought it was clever. Thought it was well done. And so, are you ready for lightning round, bro?
Let's go, dude.
All right, let's go into lightning round. I think this will help us discuss and determine some of these other things we might be thinking and wanting to kind of discuss and go over. But number one is, did the use of a child protagonist add to the creepiness factor of the story? I'll answer this one first. Absolutely. Kids are creepy.
Yeah.
My own kids are creepy sometimes.
I'll echo. Absolutely. Anytime kids are involved, I'm out. Like, they creep me out. I have kids. My own kids have creeped me out several times in life. There's nothing creepier, my friends, my non-parent friends, nothing creepier than waking up in the middle of the night and one of your kids is just looking at you.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, hold on, bro. Yeah. What up? And they just need a glass of water. And it's like, nah.
Or if your kid's just talking in his bedroom with something that, isn't really there, things like that.
Kids are scary. Terrifying.
They're scary. All right. Here's the question we were kind of getting to a little bit while we were discussing the book just a minute ago, or the story. Do you think Grandpa was a soul-jumping evil spirit, death incarnate, or did Willie take on his grandpa's mannerisms after death as a coping mechanism? Robert, go ahead and answer this one first, bro.
So for me on this one, dude, I wanted to believe his grandpa was a time traveler, and then the twist ending happened. So at first I leaned towards like death incarnate, just kind of moving through the world. But I like soul jumping evil spirit. Like, he lived through all these things, and then as his one shell is dying, he jumps into another shell.
Yeah. And I wish in a way that I remembered every little detail about each of these stories, because I think that there probably was a tell that would answer this.
Yeah.
But if you remember, they were talking when the sister was talking to the mom. She goes, well, Dad doesn't even like Grandpa, right? Yeah. Remember that? She goes, well, yeah. And she starts explaining that, and I can't remember.
Because when Dad's mom, so their grandma died, she said Grandpa changed.
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. So that was kind of the, I think that even in this, there have been tells that would tell us, things that if you go back and read them again after the ending, you're probably like, oh, There it was.
Yeah.
Steven actually revealed this in the first 2 pages. I just didn't realize it or whatever. But yeah, soul jumping evil spirit, 100%, bro. That's how I'm feeling about that. All right. Dylan, we'll start with you on this one. Name a creepy movie involving children. Something that's impacted you, something that's creeped you out. Could be the one that creeped you out first, could be the one that's creeped you out the most. Dylan, hit it.
First thing comes to mind, Children of the Corn.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That is a good one, dude.
All right, Robert, what you got, bro? You got anything to beat Children of the Corn?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. This movie is terrifying. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The kid is terrifying. The acting, I'm just joking. Mine would have to be either like the original Exorcist. It still, I think, holds up today. I watched one of the later Annabelles with Lucas, and the little girl that gets possessed in that movie is straight up nightmare fuel. Paranormal Activity 2, Paranormal Activity 3. Pretty much, if it's a horror movie with kids in it, I'm already entering creeped out. Kids are scary. Happy Father's Day.
I think, Robert, you mistaked The Phantom Menace with Acolyte Episode 3.
Dude, here's what's funny is I knew that Dylan wasn't going to let that pass. Like that that we were going to have a throwback to it. I'm going to echo Dylan though. Children of the Corn. That was the first time I saw a movie when I was younger. That was a horror movie. I think maybe I was 5. I was at a sitter's house. And my mom will sometimes talk to me about it. It's like a core memory of mine. So Children of the Corn, dude, terrified me as a child. All right, man. 3 words to close this one out. Willie the weirdo. What do you got for us, brother?
Kids are creepy.
Kids are creepy. Mine was Terrifying Freaky Friday.
There you go.